House of Dust, Republican, we hope for dawn. The most distant world of the concern from Caracas, Bo was settled during the Anorum Passacaglia by a one-way colonial expedition and left isolated until the last argument of kings. Physically recontacted by Tajid's fleets, the people of Bo refused the Ano's emissaries and forces, prompting a bitter siege that lasted for decades before the world relented. During the dynastic Lade, Bo was granted charter as the House of Dust, and became the ninth and final major house of the baronies. Due to its distance from the other worlds of the concern, Bo was a ready candidate for the federal Caracan monarchy's advanced terrestrial blue sky development facilities, as well as a reliable supply point and gravitational tether for isolated stations geared towards researching powerful weapons. For centuries, Bo's industry and metro swathes developed in tandem. The FKM, despite hiccups in the First Interest War, was a stable steward, and its state-run campuses proved again and again to be safe, secure, and well managed. Overseen by the FKM, and in no small part owing to their distance from the rest of the concern, the people of Bo never adopted a firm monarchist system of government. Theirs was always a world beholden to a constitution. In the wake of Free Sanjak, Bo saw its own limited ungrateful agitation with the use of the Horus Kobold pattern group by mine and docking workers to mount small-scale strikes, blockages, and violent skirmishes. While the uprising was eventually suppressed, the people of Bo, with agreement from the landed nobility, which made up less than 1% of the population, were firmly set on avoiding the fate of Ludra's world, as they converted their government via plebiscite to republicanism. Following the House of Water, the House of Dust was able to make a peaceful transition through lengthy negotiations with the other major houses, with the transition being finalized in 4630 U. Nobles that refused to participate in the transition were guaranteed equivalent land in the interest. Most, however, chose to stay, and partisan enclaves were eventually pardoned and their needs and leaders co-opted in a long but peaceful de-escalation. Though Republican, Bo was no less Caracan, and the people of Dust took great pride in the fact that they managed a transition with minimal violence. However, that all changed in a moment. In a bout of monarchist fervor near the end of the conversion process, a group of bone hagiographers crashed an automated shuttle into one of the world's orbital R&D stations. This act spiraled far beyond the group's initial plan to destabilize the FKM's presence on the world by disrupting its weapons research and to delegitimize the new Republican government, sending the station plunging into the ocean near one of Bo's designated poles of inaccessibility, thousands of kilometers away from any populated landmass. Known to the FKM but unknown to the people of Bo, likely unknown to the young Republican government as well, the station contained divergent experimental branches of the House of Stone's commensur nanites. Released deep under the surface of the ocean, these nanites began their work immediately, consuming and digesting the landmass at the bottom of the ocean. Surveys of the damage were used to model the future progression of the nanites. Eventually, but inevitably, Bo would lose a critical amount of its landmass to nanite consumption, mounting as the nanites' capacity for consumption outstripped the remaining landmass. With no sure method to prevent the nanites from proceeding about their RACR cycle, the terminal state of the wound became clear: Bo would be lost. Now, Bo is a dying world, and the House of Dust is eager to quit its crumbling surface. Already nearly 2% of the world's landmass has been consumed by the metastatic terraforming nanites, prompting an increasing cascading series of climate changes and tectonic instability. The logistics of moving a population of 5 billion, however, into a concern already burdened with so many are daunting. In part to solve this, the House of Dust has turned its attention towards the Dawn Line shore. Though it has no official holdings there, a brace of worlds sympathetic to or outright controlled by the baronies seem to hold promise. The House of Dust's banner company is the Graveborn, of House Sargent. Other notable minor houses of the House of Dust include House Connaught, Sands, and Rieger. As it is a Republican house, the House of Dust has no noble population. House of Promise, Republican, no house words, currently. On San Simeon, DS9, at the frontier's edge, the House of Promise awaits its debut. Settled long ago by Union's First Committee, San Simeon enjoyed a growing colonial population for decades before a cascading series of administrative failures, indigenous disease, famine, and factional conflict caused the settlements there to collapse. For centuries the world was left unsupported. Not until the arrival of the first Caracan survey teams in the early 3800s did San Simeon see a significant human presence. Finding the world empty, or rather, mostly empty, was, and its small colonies left to overgrown ruin, the Caracan survey teams determined the world to be theirs, wholly and uncontested, owing to its vacancy. Unlike the other worlds of the Dawn Line shore, San Simeon had no large indigenous cultures to negotiate with, and in the late 3800s, the baronies dispatched a number of colonial missions to San Simeon. Upon arrival, these missions resettled the world, establishing it as the fulcrum world for the federal Car-Acan monarchy in the Dawn Line shore. San Simeon has grown since then into a highly developed core status world with a population of around 6 billion and enclaves representing every major house in the concern. It is a highly multicultural cosmopolitan world with peoples from all over calling it their home. Though still a part of the baronies, its distance from the homeland and its traditions and politics have given the world a much more progressive cultural spin, free from the cruft of ritual, dynastic obligation, and entrenched custom. Its strong modern art and fashion culture may not be considered licentious in most of the Orion arm, but would raise eyebrows in the core of Car-Acan space. Noble youth often escape to San Simeon in order to enjoy its more liberal excesses. The direct property of the federal Car-Acan monarchy, San Simeon is explicitly neutral ground for all major houses, though it stands to lose that designation with the FKM's move to integrate the world as the first new major house since the dynastic Lade. Negotiations between the ignoble house and the baronic court are ongoing. Both chambers expect to reach a resolution, but each day brings almost as many issues to be resolved as those that are settled. To the chagrin of the more conservative houses, the provisional major house, Promise, would likely be classified as a Republican house, as the world is united under a stable government with a Republican charter. Despite their objections, the looming threat of a war in the Dawn Line shore is prompting the non-Republican major houses to flirt with the idea of entertaining this risk in order to firm up the barony's claim on the system. San Simeon is 0.9 the diameter of cradle and equal in mass, making it a dense world on the smaller side of terrestrial normal. Along the FKM's shoreside capital, San Simeon features many state-of-the-art miniature arcologies and orbitals, hardened defensive structures, and uplift ports. Its BUC naval and terrestrial garrisons are the largest of any baronic world in the Dawn Line shore. By consequence, San Simeon has the smallest non-baronic population of any world in the shore. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.